Welcome. This is
Àròyé
with
Olúkáyọ̀dé Olúbùnmi.
celebrating, elevating, innovating, motivating Africa.
Àròyé. Welcome back. It's story time. This is the continuation of The Tyranny of Hand-Me-Down Dreams by Tosin Ogundare. My mother's journey was not far removed from my father's experience. They met during the late 1960s when my mother was a teacher at a modern school, not far removed from the one she attended just a decade earlier. My mother would leave her teaching position to attend the nursing school in Oluyoro, affiliated with the University College Hospital, UCH, in Orita Mefa in Ibadan in the early 1970s. While in Ibadan, my mother enjoyed some of her best years as a beautiful woman in a fast-growing metropolis. To understand what it was like to live in Ibadan in those days, you would have to read Wole Soyinka's Ibadan, the Penkelemes years. It was indeed, in hindsight, by proxy, the good old days. After graduation, she decided to work at the government hospital close to where she grew up in rural Ondo State, in a remote village called Ido Ekiti. A year after my father's departure for Britain, my mother followed to aid him in his dream of becoming the first man to earn a bachelor's degree in our little town of Iwaro, Okakoko, located close to the shoreline in the area now known as Osopadek region of Ondo State. This achievement will prove to be both a source of pride and constitute an enormous sense of duty for us, his children, to be better than everyone else. More than that, to achieve beyond his scale in our own generation. From the moment we were born, our dreams were hand-me-down dreams. The expectations of his father passed down onto him, forming the premise for what we must now accomplish as his children. This is hard. You see, we were born in the 1980s. It's been 30 years since education was rare. Now, everyone attended primary school, and most people graduate high school. It's definitely not sufficient to graduate high school and attend college. We had to be in the most prestigious programs or the hardest disciplines, and then some more. That more is not well defined in my father's universe, and as such, tedious to satisfy the constraints it imposes. It's hard not to let someone down when you are uncertain about what you must do. Regardless, we had to begin, and we did by graduating as the best student at the Catholic primary school, as well as graduating high school among the best overall students, except for my sister. She died. After high school, my siblings and I knew that my father's constraints only admitted what was considered the most prestigious disciplines. And during my youth in Nigeria, it was namely medicine, law, and computer engineering. My father never attended my matriculation and graduation at the University of Technology, where I spent almost 6 years. earning a bachelor's degree in computer science from the Applied Mathematics Department. Why 6 years? That's a long story, deserving of its own treatment. Worse still, he never stepped foot on the University of Ilorin in the 7 years that my brother was a medical student. He, however, attended his convocation ceremony held months after his actual graduation. In that sense, my brother earned his respect in becoming a medical doctor. Since he didn't attend mine, I imagined I hadn't done anything from which he derived a sense of pride. By the time I graduated college, my father was down on his luck and had no claim to fame except for his achievement in the distant past, overshadowed by its minimal significance in the present. It was a rough reality for him. After graduation, I worked as an IT instructor in an educational consulting firm in Lagos, earning the Naira equivalent of $200. My ambition was to get a lucrative job in a bank, dress in well-tailored and starched shirts, complete with a jacket, settle down in a modest flat in a good neighborhood. However, the burden of the hand-me-down dream necessitated me to do more. I had to modify my goals. I borrowed money, registered for the GRE and TOEFL, and took another job sorting books at a warehouse so I could buy food while using my salary to pay college application fees. My principal goal at that time was to earn a degree abroad like my father, earn his respect in doing so, and make some money to take care of my extended family. I graduated with a master's in electrical engineering 2 years after my arrival in the US. I am unsure if I was acknowledged by my father, but I remember he asked me, "So, when are you starting your PhD?" This is relevant because if I succeeded, this would make me the first PhD in my family's history, and I am certain the first one with an American PhD in engineering from my father's hometown. At least to the best of my knowledge. Maybe someone else got there first. Who really knows? Genealogy is wild. For me, this is quite disconcerting because I wasn't ambitious. I wanted a simple life for myself. I never wanted to leave Nigeria. My father suggested that I write the SAT after high school and planted the seed years before it eventually took root, and I wrote the GRE, which ultimately led to graduate education in the US. Even then, I had no desire to continue to a PhD. I was exhausted. No one in their right mind would add on the pressure that pursuing a PhD would inevitably impose. After 3 years of awkward and disappointing conversations with my father, and disappointment in myself for not aspiring to more, there was some kind of implicit shame in settling for something not considered the ultimate. So, I got started with the applications, got back in graduate school, and endured a grueling 4.5 years to PhD. Neither of my graduate degrees was an expression of my own desire. It was born out of necessity. It was a mandate I cannot refuse, a burden for legacy. But whose? Mine or my father's? More than a decade has passed, and I realized that I have lived most of my life in service of my father's dreams and expectations to line up with what he says legacy demands. These hand-me-down dreams I cannot escape, especially because I was not the first or second choice. I inherited them in tragedy and the conflict that arose from my older sister's passing, and the acknowledgement that my brother has done his part by becoming a medical doctor. I now have a 5-year-old, and she is beginning to construct her own path. I am unsure about what my role should be. What is the burden that legacy demands of her? Or is it finished? Welcome back. This is Aroye. On the next episode, we will start with a book titled The Trolley by Kunle Agumbiade. David Kunle Agumbiade is a writer, poet, blogger, certified life coach, and the CEO of Octa's House. The Trolley is available on Amazon and Okada Books. Join me on the next episode as we start to read The Trolley. This is Aroye. Stay with us. Welcome back. This is where we drop the anchor today. But before we go, here is Aroye Adage. We go to one of the most revered women of all time, Harriet Tubman. Every great dream begins with a dreamer. Always remember, you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars, to change the world. And finally, we would love to hear from you. Here are some questions for your thoughts. What is your take on hand-me-down dreams? Is it a good or bad thing? If it is bad, what is the antidote to hand-me-down dreams? Please send your responses to aroye@okhouse.com. And remember, whether or not you have a hand-me-down dream, what matters most is that you have a dream. God bless Africa. God bless you. See you soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Africa. Subscribe, support, and share.
Aroye